Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for today's panel discussion as a part of the 100 Women to Watch campaign. Our topic today is Whine before the holidays. We're talking honest stories of parenting, presence, and deep listening. What we're going to do is that we're going to kind of nurture this space for the parents who love their kids deeply and carry a lot, right? The joy, the pressure, the invisible labor, the expectations, and sometimes the guilt of maybe even wanting to get it right. So today we're talk about that because it's not about being perfect parents. It's about being human. You know, the ones who get to show up with love, even when they're tired, overwhelmed, and maybe sometimes stretched thin. So, thank you also to each panelist because your voice, your vulnerability is so valuable. And also thank you everyone who's watching for giving yourself this hour to breathe and reflect and remember that you're not alone. So, first question is we're going to invite in some emotional honesty without putting anyone on the spot immediately, okay? So, as we head into kind of like the next phase of the holidays, what emotion is most present for you as a parent, and what do you think might be at the root of that emotion? Could be joy, it could be excitement, it could be pressure, it could be a whole bunch of stuff. Who would love to share first? Go for it, Ariel. Mike is yours.
This is a hard season for me as a parent. I always find when we come into this season, I experience a lot of grief. I'm not really close with most of my family, and I am the cycle breaker of my family. And I swore when I had my boys that they would never experience the things that I experienced, and that they would be allowed to feel their emotions fully, be able to be the individuals that they are without having to apologize, without being told they're too loud, too much, too this, too that. And so this season is hard, especially as I have a 4 and a 6-year-old, and they're now starting to ask the questions about extended family and why we don't see them and things like that. And it's always brings about a bit of grief because I have to grieve that loss, but I know that those choices were made for them, for their well-being, for their futures, and it wasn't a decision that I made lightly. And I do find that this season brings a lot of that forward for me. And so it's something that my boys and I are working together through in real time this year, now that they're old enough to kind of understand that our family is different and built upon people that we choose rather than by this blood bond that we are raised to believe should always come first above all else. And that they're free to have their feelings and be who they want to be, and without judgment in this household. So for us, this is a time of like trying to navigate those tricky things where it's like, oh, well, why don't we have grandparents at the Christmas concert? And why don't we have all these people that come to visit during Christmas and family dinners, and showing them, that these are ideologies that were placed forward on us through society, and that we don't have to abide by them just because it's in the movies, right? So that's where we sit.
It's a good protective mama attitude. And I think when the experience hasn't been the Hallmark holiday movie experience, and you do have that. I think every mother has that very protective instinct that you want to create something safe for your kids, emotionally safe. And that's a amazing gift that you're giving your boys. So kudos to you. I have 2 boys as well, but mine are 22 and 21. So gone from the little days, and now 6'4" and enormous. And having just spent this last weekend seemingly getting both kids a brand new wardrobe because they've grown out of everything. And you think, wasn't this just like 6 months ago we did this? But that's what happens. But for them too, they're balancing a blended family in my home, and some time out with their father, and they're juggling their own set of different pressures that are put on them by different family members and people, and like you, I'm very conscious of keeping my bias to myself, which is not always easy, and just focusing on creating a harmonious and safe space that also has a bit of joy with it. And to me, that little things that I love, whether it's the twinkling little Christmas lights or whatever, I just go all out because it makes me feel good. And I kind of think if I feel good, that's going to pass on to my kids, even though they are adults now. It's still that energy that you put off. It's that let's just practice a little more kindness toward others, because everyone is juggling so many different things at this time of year, and there are so many added challenges. You might not be able to give the gifts that you'd want to give to the people you want to give them. You might not financially be able to do that, but I think with my kids too, it's always been a focus on, okay, your time and that space with us all together is the gift. That's what it's about. So that's what I'm sort of focusing on.
And piggyback off of what Kate and Ariel were saying, Ariel, that's awesome that you're setting new traditions for your family, because that's what the important thing is, right? You said you're the cycle breaker, and that's the beauty of it, of being a young parent, younger, I should say, this generation. Being able to set those new traditions and doing it the way that you want to, but your kids will remember that. So it's very funny. So I'm in a different contrast. I have older children as well. But we live in a multi-generational home. So we live with my mother lives here. My children are 20, well, actually one just turned 26. So 26, 23, and 21. I have my 4 grandchildren living here as well. I have 6 grandchildren altogether. So yeah, there's a lot going on. My son-in-law lives here too, and my youngest son's girlfriend has moved in as well. Almost to be fiance, I'm assuming. They haven't said, but there's signs. But anyway, so my going into the holiday season is a little bit different. I've really stepped into this role as Nana. Today actually happens to be the anniversary of my grandma's death, 6 years ago. And it was Facebook has that way of popping up on the memories of seeing things that you totally forgot about, and just really giving you a real second to take pause and just evaluate what was happening. Because when my grandmother had passed away, my oldest grandson was just born. So for 2 weeks, we had 5 generations on this earth, and then my grandma passed. So, and this grandmother is the one that was just there for me. She took me on my first roller coaster ride, my first Cubs game. I'm Chicago suburbs, and I am a Cubs fan. Don't come after me if you're a Sox fan. But my first Cubs game, all of that. My grandma did that. And so it's very important to me that I have those memories with my own grandchildren. And mine are 6 down to almost 2, well, 1.5. So what I am walking into the holidays with differently. At first, I wanted to say anxiety because that's usually what's sitting at the top of the list. It's the or not grocery shopping. It's the holiday shopping, the Black Friday deals, the Cyber Monday deals. And this is the first year where I am not participating in any of it. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to rush out and buy it just because it's on sale twice a year. It's not worth the headache and the stress. And another thing that I've given up to is wrapping individual presents. And I bought sacks from Hobby Lobby. They're 60% off, and stuffed everybody's present in a sack and gave it to them. So there's ways that I've kind of shaved off, the last few years that I've learned to take away the stress, especially having littles and that. So this is the first holiday season where I'm walking in where I'm going to sit down and watch my holiday movies. I'm going to make my Christmas cookies, and I'm going to enjoy this time with my family because we're actually all here and present. I'm also a travel nurse, and this is the first time in 3 years that I'm actually home. So this means a lot to me that I'm physically here with my family and just present and just enjoying this moment because this is what I wanted for so long is to be here. So
Love that. Love it. I mean, the key word that you said there was presence. And I'm not talking about the kind that you rap. Okay. Because there's this dynamic that often happens. It's like parents feel the need that they really want to like push through, like
mhm.
very long before they often learn how to pause, right? So I'm curious also to hear, what belief pattern or survival habit did you have to unlearn in order to show up more to be present, both for yourself, for the people that you love, especially during this season? Super curious.
Um, I like to chime in first.
Yeah.
Just for the experiences of, 20, my youngest, or I'm sorry, my oldest is 26. So I was a young parent, so money's always been tight. So that hustle, that living check to check mentality, that stress of having to take advantage of all the sales because I'm trying to budget 3 paychecks going into Christmas. So, that right there in itself is, I'm letting that go, and that just, it's different that I don't have to do that. And it's nice. And I'm just, you know, sorry.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that. I think this season, I love what you said there. Like, this season is about dropping the expectations. Um, we've been conditioned too much to believe like stuff is the things that we need under the tree. Like we need more stuff. It needs to be bigger. It needs to flow out. Like this was the way it was, and you know, now that stuff is so readily available, it was, I think, a year or two ago with my husband, we sat back and he said to me, he's like, I feel like there's not enough stuff under the tree. And I was like, no, but there doesn't need to be, because it's not about the stuff, it's about the experiences, because we're surrounded by stuff that means nothing. But there's this unspoken expectation that we have to be broke, like going into Christmas. Like the amount of people that I personally coach come January because they are stressed because they stretch themselves too thin over the holiday season financially and emotionally, that because they tried to meet everybody's needs on every level. And I'm just like, where did this expectation really take hold? Because when we live on this like unspoken expectation and obligation to everybody else, we will let go of our own inner truth. And like my own inner truth is that I would rather experiences, memories to be ingrained in my children's brains, versus the toy that we all know that they're not going to play with. They're going to play with the damn blocks instead. you know, I literally bought my kids a cardboard house box that they could color, and that thing has had more miles put on it than any expensive toy that I've ever bought. And in all honesty, it's the experiences of us having tea parties in there and coloring together that, it was a $25 cardboard house, like, and it went so far with them because it's the time, the connection. And I think the biggest survival tip I give a lot of my clients at this time is let go of the expectation and the obligation to everybody else and what society tells you need to do, and go with connection first. Connection is everything. And in that, it can move mountains. And for me, it's about creating the experiences for my kids. So my kids aren't home today. It's a pro day, but they're off at camps and stuff. And like we bought an experience for them this year. And we're gonna go on a trip together as a family. And that's the big gift, because that's what we want to do, is create those times together that they're going to be like, hey, you remember that crazy family road trip we went on where we were fighting over the chips, for 20 minutes there straight until it went everywhere? Those are the memories I want them to have. Not, you bought me the newest transformer that broke 5 minutes after I opened it.
That's perfect. And I think that's where I was going before I
think so. That's why I hopped in. I feel like that's where your brain was going, but then it kind of went, wait, just wait a minute.
Yeah, I got so excited. But my daughter, she's the one that's 26, and she had mentioned that's what they want more is experiences. So we try to do that as well. And we were successful in that a few years ago. And it was breaking that cycle of, having to be around family, even though just because they're blood, even if it's toxic, doesn't necessarily mean that's what's right. And I had to make that decision for my family moving forward that I wasn't going to subject them to that anymore. And then the next year we went to Disney and Universal. So I shared that experience for them, and they still talk about it. So it's, I was able to do that, but they do remember those experiences is the big thing, and not worrying about the latest toy, like you said, or, because it's going to be, if it's not broken in 3 days, it's going to be donated in 6 months, So, I mean, what are they really getting out of it?
100%.
One time
I don't
in
know.
Yeah.
I think the survival, or not really survival, but the habit conditioning, if you like, that I chose to unlearn because it just didn't resonate with me, was, I saw my own mother, overcommit to things and then be completely burnt out, or this pressure of, oh, we've got to have this dish, or we've got to go to this event, and we've got to do, gotta do. And for me, I know that, especially with the job that I do, I need to be conscious of my own boundaries and of refilling my own cup so that I can be present and be my best self for my family and the people I love. So, gone are the days of just because you're invited to something means that you have to go. It's like, no, I don't. I can stay in my pajamas if I want to, and I can watch a movie, or I can read a book, or I can do what helps me recharge, and that's okay. And I think, unlearning that habit of overextending. I mean, and watching, my mother-in-law lose her mind over, how it needed to be done, but yet, and then complaining that she's doing it all by herself, yet she won't let anybody else help. It's like, oh, time out. No, absolutely not. That is so stressful to me. And I would much rather, get things organized to a point where I can sit back and relax, and I don't have to go to so-and-so's party just because, their feelings might be hurt if you don't go. Well, I'm sorry, if that person is a good friend and knows you well, they know that if you can't make it, you can't make it. And they don't take it personally. So it's like, it's putting that sort of side of expectations and not honoring myself down that I think I'm most proud of now, because that took a long time to learn.
And that's hard too, setting those boundaries, but keeping them is the important thing. And once you realize that you don't have to feel uncomfortable to make other people feel comfortable,
Yeah.
I have to keep telling myself that all the time and remind myself that too, because that's that people pleasing mentality too, that, I have been guilty of, and I'm trying to shake. But, that's a legit feeling that you have to, especially around the holidays, especially if you're, a parent, a wife, a daughter-in-law, you feel like you have all these roles that there's some kind of obligation that you have to fulfill. And I feel like, it's stressful for us. It's even more so because we're taking care of the households too, but how can we pour from an empty cup? So Kate, you saying that, being able to realize that self-love is okay too, that there's nothing selfish about it. It's selfless to love yourself and to take that time. So even if it's just like small things, watch the Christmas movie. I made my husband watch Love Actually with me the other day. I don't care. I want to watch it. We're watching it. Not that he fought me on it, but he was totally 100%. But it was that time, Saturday we were sitting here in our room, just us time. And that was what, 2 hours, but that was 2 hours that we got to connect on our own too. And that's another important thing is making sure that we're making each other time for not just each other, but for our spouses. Because
Mhm.
I know that's something that I struggled with. I've been married. And my story again is unique. Me and my husband, we were married for 17 years and then we divorced, and we were divorced for 5 years, and then we got remarried 2 years ago. So we've been together for 27 years off and on. But that was one thing that I feel like, survival tip going into the holidays is making sure that we're honoring our spouses too, because when the kids leave the nest, who else is it going to be at the end of the day besides that person, you know?
Mm.
That right there. Thank you for saying that out loud. That right there is the point, because it really does. I think it's an important point that you got to make time for your spouse, and you got to honor them during the holidays too. Like, my husband is the main breadwinner in our house because I run the household while our children are little. We had kids later in life,
Mhm.
and so, I take the brunt of the parenting right now, but that means also honoring him and honoring the hard work he does to provide for us and things. And I think that connection is everything during the holiday season, because there's a lot of spouses out there, whether it's the woman or the man who's making the most money or the breadwinner of the household, whatever, however you want to word it, where they begin to feel like that's all they are,
Mhm.
right? And to buy all the gifts and to work harder to make sure they have enough for this. Whereas, like, creating that connection, again, that connection is everything. Connection is everything, and taking that time to honor them. I love that you said that, because not a lot of people will say that, and they kind of leave that vital piece out. And Kate, I love that you brought up boundaries, because boundaries during the holiday season is everything. And I am the first person somebody will invite me to a party, and I'll be like, thank you so much for thinking of me, but I'm gonna be like fitting some tacos in my mouth, watching, Christmas Vacation movie, and I'm gonna be thinking about you while I wear my pink fluffy slippers. But thank you anyways. I will not be there, and it's okay to say those things, and it's okay to put yourself first. And I think as moms, as you said, like our nanas and our moms and our nanas and everything, that perfectionism that lasted in those past generations of like the perfect Christmas dinner with the china. Oh my goodness, the china, you know.
Mhm.
I don't know about you guys, but my mom still has every ounce of china that was ever handed down to her, and like the gold plated plates and like that. They only ever get used at Christmas, and they're a pain in the butt to pull out. But like letting go of that perfectionism and letting go of those and setting those boundaries for your own mental well-being, because the holiday season, isn't it about connection with
Mhm.
your closest loved ones, and the greatest connection of all, the connection to yourself, because as
Mhm.
moms, we don't do that enough, you
I think
know.
that's exactly right, Ariel, because most people are so conditioned to overextend themselves and to be pressured into being something that someone else expects them to be, that you lose that connection because you're not focusing on what your needs are. You're focusing on someone else. And for so many people, it starts when you're children and you are modifying your behavior to meet someone else's needs. Therefore, you put your own needs aside, and you're taught with that conditioning very young that you are expected to modify your behavior to make me happy, to do what I need you to do, to whatever. So for so many people, especially in an older generation, those of us that are 50 plus, it was very much like where I grew up in Australia, coming toward the end of children are seen and not heard, and you are expected to behave a certain way, and you are expected to. I mean, gosh, I remember my mum having people over for dinner and things like that. It was my job to do all the washing up, to do all of the cleaning. I can remember getting on climbing up on top of trellises and hammering stuff back in, and all this other stuff. So it was a constant, it was well above these are just your weekly chores to help out. And so it was an expectation of, you need to be this way so that I benefit. And, sadly, often those conditionings extend into your adult life, where you then all of a sudden are wanting to be all things to all people, and you burn out. And it takes a bit of, I think, some fairly hard experiences and times where you are burnt out, that you tend to reflect a little more and go, you know what? This is awful, and this is not doable, and this is, I'm not seen, I'm not, no one really understands me. It's like, well, you've got to really assess yourself and what your conditioning was, to then even be able to learn how to connect, because you can't even do that if you're still preoccupied with what everybody else wants you to do or needs you to do. So it is tough. And I think at this time of year, it's really important to have grace with yourself. And you're not going to get it right all the time, and someone may get their feelings hurt, and you might say something that was perhaps a little insensitive or a little too direct, and nobody's perfect, but I think having a little grace with yourself too, and knowing that if you're tired, if you're trying to do too much or be too much, then everybody's going to have triggers, and at this time of year, I think especially so. So being mindful of other people's triggers, other people's not knowing what someone else is going through, and being kind to everybody, maybe giving everybody a little more slack is also a good tip for this time of year.
We say kindness is free. Spread that shit like glitter.
Yeah.
Right.
It really takes no effort to be kind and to smile to somebody. And like, I've had people come back to me and be like, up in the grocery store, some gentleman came up to me and goes, "Hey, I know you probably don't remember me, but you smiled at me a couple weeks ago and said, 'Hey, I hope you're having a great day.'" And he goes, "You have no idea what I was off to go do that day." And he's like,
Wow.
"You made me stop and think." And I was like, and I don't remember him. I don't remember that moment, because I spread kindness like it's everywhere all the time. And you don't know what that kindness, that one little moment, can do as a trickle effect. And especially in this season when everybody is struggling, you don't know their stories, like, kindness is everything.
Yeah. And often people that are the biggest assholes are the ones in the most pain. So,
So I do education assistant work. So I work with children with exceptionalities. So, with oppositional defiance disorder, autism, Down syndrome, like you name it, I work with those children. And the one thing that we talk about often is that the hardest kids to love, the ones that fight you the hardest, who don't want to do the work, are the ones who need you the most. They need you to love them the hardest. And it's hard sometimes, because they make it difficult, but it is. And that's what you just gotta remember, is that sometimes the assholes that you're like, "Ooh, you're driving me a little crazy," those are the people that need you to go just that extra step above, to be kind and be like, "I'm sorry, I hear your frustration. I hope you have a better day." And like, just leave it at that.
Because where does that courage come from to do that? Like, it's easy to like go and like, run and hide. Oh my goodness, that person looks so mean, or they're being like, that victim mentality that you're talking about before. Like, but where does the courage come from to be kind and to have boundaries?
I don't know that it's courage. I think it's more education. I think if more people were educated on the fact that, and I used to see it all the time in cancer clinics, the really angry person that no one wants to treat. Well, yeah, they're going through something extraordinarily traumatic. They may have lost their job. They may have pushed their family away. They may have, who knows what, but I think it's more an education that for most people, that kind of behavior comes from fear, grief, and pain. So when you know that, you can extend a little more kindness.
And being able, I also think of kindness as a reflection of what, what I'm sharing, what I want back. So I can't help but to smile at people sometimes. And other times if you catch me, I'll look at you crazy, like, what are you looking at? But I mean, I can't help but to smile at people because that's just, like, smile. I like smiling, it's what I do. You just smile at everybody. You just want to. And then
Mm.
it's not like Kate was saying, it's not really courage. It's just, it's hard not to once you get to that point. But it's really a choice because people say it all the time. You see the bumper stickers, choose kindness. We wake up in the morning, and I ask my grandchildren sometime, like, did you wake up and choose violence today? Like, what is happening? And like
Say
my
that to my
4-year-old
kids.
grandson, yes, my 4-year-old grandson, he is. Whoo, when you said we gotta love him extra, I was just like, he just no, and I'm just Nana loves you so much, I'm just gotta let him go. But it's just, you have to choose to be that way because we can all sit and wallow in our self misery and do that, but we choose not to, and I like to tell people all the time, it costs absolutely nothing to be positive. There's so much more energy in carrying around that negativity and feeling like just all day. You feel lighter when you're happy. Like, why not want to walk like that all the time? And it's easy for me to say, but I can't,
And
do it
like
24/7, but you choose to though.
Yeah,
And it's an exercise like anything else. The more you exercise that behavioral pattern, the more it is going to change the wiring in your brain to refer to that and have that as a natural response. Because I mean, no one wants that kindness projected in an inauthentic way, because then
no,
you're
you're gonna tell toxic positivity when it comes.
yeah.
I mean, for me, like you called it courage, but like for me, you guys don't know me very well, but part of my story is that I've actually died 3 times in my lifetime. I'm 41 years old. I've died 3 times in my lifetime. It's a whole thing. But one thing that I can tell you for certain is that nothing I do today, nothing I say today is gonna matter 100 years from now. But how I make people feel will have a ripple effect throughout time and space. Right? I could dance with a cow costume on and make a fool of myself, and that ain't gonna matter. But that smile that saved that man's life, that has a ripple effect because now he's still here because of it. His family still has him. His children still have him. Like, the ripple effect is massive. And it took no effort to the point where I can't even remember that. It took no effort. And there's a fun fact, it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. So you're actually working harder to get the face going on, And I think that's it is a learned behavior but doesn't have to be, and it's super easy to do. Where it's like, even when somebody makes you mad, like let's use the family dinner at Christmas because we're talking about the holidays. Somebody makes a comment that you're like, oh, there's Aunt Janet making her drunken comment again. Instead of getting the irritated face on or whatever, you're like, hey, did I tell you guys about this funny thing that happened? And redirect the conversation. You don't have to shame them. You don't have to shut them down. You don't have to make it a big deal. You can choose, like Cassie said, to be like, I'm going to go a better route here. Because we know it's going to happen. It's happening. We don't have to let it affect us. And I think everything in this life comes down to a choice. Everything. And choosing to do nothing is still a choice.
100%.
Thank you for that, Ariel. That was it kind of got me past the the everyday thinking about it, and into something more transcendent and just pervasive throughout all the things that we're doing. Which brings me to our next question, which is like getting really specific, like you have, right? If we have some more examples that we can share for people, like a moment when you realize that you were holding more than you could name. Like, it's easy when we have a name for it. It's like, oh, it's okay, guys. I'm just cranky right now, or I'm tired, or, I need some space. But what if you don't even know how? And then how do you finally exhale from it? Right? Have you ever had that kind of moment?
People sometimes know, some people don't. when I talk, you might notice half my face is frozen. Some people notice, some people don't. I have Bell's palsy. I got that 7 days after I had my first son. And, you know, I didn't realize until this happened, like, you know, I was promised all these fixes. It'd be gone in 3 weeks. It'll do this. It turns out they know nothing about how to heal it. And it's just a crapshoot. And it turns out that I have permanent paralysis as a result. And it was actually going through that crumble, that tower moment, as I call it, where the tower comes crumbling down around you and you're left standing in rubble, that I realized that what was actually happening was I was repressing my anger for things that had happened in my life that I hadn't yet worked on, that I was choosing to ignore because they were in the past, it didn't matter. And what had happened was all of that repressed rage decided to be like, you're not going to listen to us. We're going to make it so you physically cannot ignore what you see in the mirror. And I had to deal with it then. And I'm telling my clients, don't get to that point. Don't get to that point where your body physically has to produce something for you to stop and listen. So now a practice that I regularly do is checking in with myself. Where am I not being honest with the people in my life about how I'm feeling? You know, like there was a very innocent situation that happened, and I could have done what I normally do, which is repress the emotion, feel the rage inside, ruminate about it for weeks on end on my own. But instead I decided to be like, hey, you did this and it made me feel this way. And I understand that that's not what you meant, but I need you to understand how I felt in that moment and to let that truth out, because it was never meant to hurt that person by saying my truth, but I needed to get it out because otherwise it's just going to sit inside me like a little volcano ready to erupt at any moment. And I think that a lot of people don't take that time to check in. Like, where am I not being honest with myself? Where am I not being honest with the people around me? Where am I taking on too much and saying yes where I should say no? Right? Because I'm afraid of judgment, or I'm operating out of being attaching my self-worth with productivity. Like, how many of you guys have done that? Like, productivity directly attached to your self-worth. If I'm not doing enough, then somehow I'm not enough. Right? And I think that that's the big thing, is checking in with myself regularly now. And as a result, like, I've healed my Bell's palsy as far as I can get it, but I had to relearn how to check in with my body so that this kind of stuff doesn't keep happening. And I think that that was a really big tower moment for me. And once I did that, now when I feel like, okay, something is out of alignment, I ask myself these questions. And then I say, what do I need to do next? Inevitably, the first answer is always go take a bath, Ariel, or go take a nap. Either have a moment to yourself or have some sleep, because those will fix everything very quickly. And then we can game plan from there, right? And so I think that that's something that a lot of people need to kind of get into the habit and training their brain to check in regularly with themselves, because when you start to hold on to more, it actually gets easier to hold on to more until you explode, right? Mm-hmm. It was easy to repress my rage about things that had happened in my life because it just became like a muscle where I just kept pushing it down, push it down, push it down, push it down until there's nowhere for anything else to go. And so it actually takes work of rebuilding this habit of like, okay, check-in time and taking that moment. And I think that that's an important lesson to take into the holidays. Check in with yourself regularly, right? When somebody invites you to something, like Kate said, like, check in with yourself. Do I actually even want to be there? Or do I want to be shoving tacos in my face watching a Christmas Vacation movie? Like, where do I want to be? You know, and I think that's vital to knowing when you've hit your limits.
And I think that's funny too, because when I talk about it too, I always talk about so it must be just like a generational thing, where we just tamp it down, where we just kind of, we'll pack it away, we'll compartmentalize, and we'll figure it out later type of thing. But one of the things that I've noticed too is that, we talk about all these roles that we have to fulfill, but who put those expectations on us? My husband does that a lot. He's like, who said you had to? And I'm like, God, nobody, and so one of the things that was my check-in moment, I had weight loss surgery, 11 years, it'll be 12 years on December 15th. And I've lost over 100 pounds. I've been able to keep over 100 pounds down. But the biggest thing with the reason why I had to have weight loss surgery in the first place was not being able to deal with my emotions. You know, I was eating Oreos, it was eating ice cream, especially now. Oh my gosh, I work in doctor's offices, you know, so the patients bringing in all the candies and the treats and the reps bring in lunches and stuff, you know, I was self-soothing that way, you know, the stress of the holidays and all the Christmas shopping. But I'm going to go to Starbucks and order the venti, Trenta, whatever, with all the whips and all of that. So I can't do that anymore because I've had the weight loss surgery. And what was the point? So now it's having to really, you know, check in, you know, self check in to see where it is that I'm, you know, I'm feeling the pain, I'm feeling, you know, that void. Do I really want to eat, or is it because I'm just bored, or am I actually hungry? But something that I started doing, you know, and this is going back to, you know, working on my marriage, you know, my second time around, is when I'm feeling overwhelmed, instead of going like this and pushing it down, I just tell my husband, I said, look, this is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling overwhelmed because of all of this. And I'll give him my 30 seconds of verbal vomit. And then I'll tell him straight up, be like, either, you know, sometimes I just want to verbalize what's going on in my head, and I don't want him to give any suggestions because he wants to help me all the time. And I have to tell him, I'm not telling you because I want you to give me any suggestions. I'm just telling you because I need to say it. And then I'm good. And I feel like sometimes we just need that person to hear what we're saying, to hear us, you know, let us actually voice to somebody what the problem is. I'm feeling overwhelmed because I feel like I have to bake 3 dozen cookies. And he'll say, why? I don't know, because it's December and I feel like I have to, you know. So it's like checking in not only with myself, but having that accountability partner, which should, you know, if you're lucky enough to have a supportive spouse, not lucky, but you know, we all should, but it's if it's your spouse, being able to check in and have that honest conversation, like, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Either can you help me, or just listen to what I'm saying and, you know, help me move past that. And I think that's what's helped me through the holidays, and that was hard to work on, and I still work on that all the time. You know, it's really hard to admit that we need help at any point in time, but um, I feel like that's helped a lot, where I don't feel like I have all of this piling up. You know, I'm able to kind of let things go here and there, and it really isn't that serious in the big scheme of things.
Yeah,
I
I can
love that
totally
you,
relate to that.
yeah, I love that you brought that up though with the thing with your husband, because I do that all the time. I'm like, I'm gonna come at you with how I'm feeling right now, but I just want you to sit and listen and hug me and tell me that I'm doing a good job, and then smack my butt and send me on my way, okay?
So there you go.
Versus sometimes I'll be like, I'm gonna tell you my ideas, don't talk until I say and go, and then I want your suggestions, because
Yes.
need to be able to give him that feedback of what I need, because otherwise inevitably he wants to fix it. They always do.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, but I think that, yeah, it is hard to ask for help when you need it. And I think being honest in like what you need in that moment, it's again, like Kay said, it's like muscle. You have to muscle memory, like you have to keep
Hmm.
practicing it to make it your second nature. But I love that you brought that up, because I think that is a huge survival tip. Especially in a marriage, and in a relationship, because I know with my husband, before we got that into play, like he's an RCMP officer, like a police officer, and he, you know, he wants to fix everything. So,
Hmm.
you know, that could cause fights, because I'd be like, sometimes like, I just want somebody to listen to me, because that's one of our base human needs, to be seen and heard,
Hmm.
and witnessed, you know, not fixed, because there's nothing wrong with us. We're not broken. We just sometimes just want
Exactly.
somebody to witness us in the messy middle of it all.
Hmm. Just here,
And
just
sorry.
feel validated.
Absolutely. I find, you know, when pressures creep up and you're doing a lot, and especially with a lot of the cancer work that I do and end of life care, and um, you do take on a lot. I mean, you can't not. I notice personally when I start needing to take a big breath, it's because I've been shallow breathing for a while. And, you know, for most of us, you know how occasionally you'll notice all of a sudden you just go, and for me, I know, okay, I've been shallow breathing a while because my own emotional regulator is getting full, and it triggers for me, okay, here's where I need to take a few minutes. I need to do some breathing techniques. I need to practice what I preach a little, maybe take 5 minutes, do a quick meditation, and re-regulate myself. Because even when you're doing these things, you know, all day long as part of your job and working with people, you know, often we forget that we have to practice what we preach. And so for me, when it builds up, you know, if I notice, if I'm conscious of, oh, I just took a really big breath there. Wow. Okay. Let's give myself a little more time to build myself back up, because otherwise it does. And when you're not aware of these things, it continues, and then, you know, that's when you tend to put more stress on your immune system, your stress hormones, your cortisol levels rise, and you know, inflammation increases. All it's kind of a the perfect storm that you can't see. So for me, it's when I take a big breath or a sigh. It's like, okay, slow down, slow your roll. Let's just get a breath. And, you know, it's easy to do too.
Yes. Yes, indeed. So speaking of taking a breath, I want to just take a moment to honor what has happened in this space today, because parenting doesn't always give us room where we can be honest and witnessed and validated like we're doing for each other here. So I want to thank you all for your courage, your transparency, for sharing your stories. And to every parent that is watching, yes, you out there, you are doing better than you think.
Give yourself some grace.
Yes. And there is no perfect script, you know, for parenting, just presence, maybe a little bit of repair, and then trying again tomorrow. So it's all right. It's all right. It's okay. And as we move into the holidays, my wish for you is simple: that you feel supported instead of stretched, maybe connected instead of isolated, and also appreciated instead of invisible. So what we're going to do now before we wrap this completely is I'd love to give each of you panelists an opportunity to just share two things: a final thought or encouragement for the parent that is listening today, and also where we can find you out in the world or online. I'd like to go next first.
I can go, I guess. We'll go alphabetically there. Yeah, so my piece of advice to parents out there right now is, no matter how hard it gets, the one thing I always come back to is, I think to myself, my children are a direct reflection of what's happening inside of me, first and foremost. So what do I need to fix first? And the second thing is, I always say, and I have it on my wall, is connection before correction. Always. Because even if they're yelling and screaming and throwing things, that is a form of communication, and they are trying to tell you something. It is your job, our job, to stop, breathe, put on our own oxygen mask first, and then figure out what it is that they are truly trying to say. Because, you know, you might have triggers happening in yourself from your own past, and put your oxygen mask on first, and then break the cycle by creating that connection before correction. And you will watch your world shift completely. You can find me on Instagram at the Ariel Balfour. And I was going to say my website. Sorry, Instagram at the Ariel Balfour, which is easy because my website is www.thearielbalfour.com. So I'm pretty easy to find, and I can't wait to connect with all of you amazing parents out there, because you're doing way better than you think you are, and we all struggle. And if we lift each other up, because it truly takes a village, we can move mountains.
Thank you, Ariel. Much appreciated.
That was so awesome. I am not as well versed and well prepared. Um, my advice is, one day at a time, give yourself some grace. And like I said before, it costs absolutely nothing to be positive, especially when we're going in the holiday season with littles, if we have littles. Just day by day with them, and don't stress about the money, don't stress about the presents, just be present. They want that more versus the Nintendo Switch versus the games. Just be present. That's what your family really wants. They just want you to be around and to listen to them. You can find me on Facebook. I am under Post-op Bariatric Community. You can also find me at RN Cassie at sparkwellness.com.
Nice. I think my humble bit of self-learnt wisdom, if you like, is presence over perfection. If you have happy kids and you have a messy room, who cares? It's going to get messy again tomorrow. So if you give yourself that little bit of permission to not have to have everything perfect, but if you're having fun, if you're playing with your kids, if you're reading them a story, if you're outside and doing things with them, that matters more than the perfect neat home, the perfectly cooked whatever. I think putting down those expectations and giving yourself a bit of a high five for getting through the day sometimes is really important. It's giving yourself a bit of grace. And you can find me at nursecoachkate.com or on Instagram on my art page, which is at Kate Cruikshank Inks. Or a website for my art page is alchemyinks.com. My artwork kind of combines my cancer coaching, so it's all interrelated. As weird as that may seem, it's a little out of the box.
Well, I mean, it's all related in the bigger, scheme. So not so weird.
It's absolutely beautiful. I have seen her work. It is absolutely amazing. She does not give herself enough credit.
Thank you, Cassie.
Well,
it's more the artwork allows me to put the profits back into providing free cancer coaching. So it's all kind of going back.
Love you so much.
I think all of us, even the mums out there, we're just trying to make a difference, be good to others, and get through the holiday season.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And thank you for having us.
Yeah, this was amazing. And I'm so glad to have met some new people to connect with. You ladies are phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
Likewise.
This has been awesome. Very much.
Well, excellent. Thank you again, each of you, for being here, and also to all of the parents that are watching and who've trusted us with their attention, your attention, for this past hour. If today gave you some relief, awesome. Some resonance, awesome. Maybe even an exhale that you didn't even know that you needed. So that's there for you. May you take good care of yourself. As you continue through the holidays, may you take good care of your heart. And remember that you deserve support just as much as you give it. Awesome. So thank you all. This was a pleasure. Oh, look at that. We got some cheers before we depart here. Sweet.
We have our own fan club here, apparently.
We'll be your guys' biggest cheerleaders. Just you wait. Now that I've met you, I'm going to be in all the socials being like.
And that's the biggest thing, right? Is support. We need to support each other more.
Absolutely.
Finding like-minded people. That's the hardest thing. Finding your community. That's the biggest thing. Is finding the people. Mm-hmm.
I think we found it right here, guys. This was probably one of my favorite panels I've been on in a long time. So thank you for this absolutely phenomenal hour.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome. See, so now you know that we have to do more. So they're right there.
And so it is. Bye for now. To our viewers, thank you so much for supporting the campaign and supporting our panelists. Looking forward to continuing the conversation. Rock on.